still online?
No.
Okay. Good morning, I've got 9:30. Oh, do we have our auditor here?
Nope.
She's right here.
We're gonna wait just a moment.
Hi, Tracy. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
You tell me when you're ready. There she is. You ready? We'll rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll do roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Here.
Peter?
Here.
DeCook?
Here. Is there any agenda deletions? Seeing none. Action item 1 is consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion. Claims, I have a claims number of $329,035.30. Minutes, regular meetings, 3/16/21, special meetings, 3/9/21, 3/16/21, 3/19/21, 3/23/21, 3/26/21, 3/30/21, and April 1st, 21. Payroll removal, Randy Spur, Deputy Sheriff, Sheriff's Office, effective March 31st, 2021. New hire, Caitlin McClain, RDH I-Smile Coordinator, Health Services, effective March 24, 2021. New hire, Wade Hendry, Seasonal Labor, Secondary Roads, effective April 19, 2021. New hire, Doyle Jacobs, Seasonal Labor, Secondary Roads, effective April 19, 2021. Deputy appointment, Eric Burrows, Second Deputy Sheriff, Lieutenant, Sheriff's Office, effective April 4, 2021. H, Class C liquor license, Happy Apple Celebrations, LLC. I, set public hearing date of April 20th, 2021 at 6:15 for the fiscal year 21 budget amendment. J, Magistrate Appointing Commission appointments. K, Veterans Affairs Commission appointment, Ronald Burson to replace Bob Davy through June 30th, 2024. L, job classification change, Tessa Baskerville, HR Director, from full-time salary to part-time hourly, effective April 12, 2021. M, payroll removal, Donna Dental Assistant, Health Services, effective March 29, 2021. N, new hire, Renee Weber, Home Care Aide, Health Services, effective April 12, 2021. And O, Chelsea Edgington, Board of Assistant, Board of Supervisors Office, new hire, effective April 26, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. Motion carries. Number 2 is a public hearing set for 9:35. I have 9:34. And we will just wait a quick moment. It is the 5-year construction program commencing July 1, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2026.
This one?
Is the technology ready?
Well, we'll see. No promises. It's on. It's displayed and it's at the hearing.
Tracy.
Thank you.
I have all the PDFs pulled up right here. All three of them are pulled up. You can just search between them however you'd like to.
Thank you.
So I'll start off if that's okay.
I've got 9:35, so do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
Make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Go ahead, Dave. Thank you.
So we posted the 5-year plan on the website and published it in the newspaper as required. Really, it remains unchanged from last year's 5-year plan. The main reason for that is the state came out with the bridge bundling that tied projects in our county together with other counties. In short, the state received a pot of money, 30 million plus of federal aid. So they hand selected 3 of our projects and bumped them up in the 5-year program. Those have 45% of our highway bridge program funding, and the other 55 is federal aid. The other reason it remains unchanged is the goalposts kind of keep moving on us. It used to be a 6-year restriction on the HBP or highway bridge program funding is now 4.5 year. And we'll show those on a couple charts here after we potentially receive some comments here. But this is the actual program that was put on the website. And it shows a lot of large-scale projects, fiscal year 22, bridge replacement, and then R57 HMA resurfacing to Spring Hill, north of Highway 92, and then HMA resurfacing in Liberty Center to the school. And then the next projects are in fiscal year 24. We show another bridge replacement. And also fiscal year 24 is the R57 bridge replacement over North River south of Norwalk. So this time, if there's anyone online or in the room that wants to provide any comments, we'll take those at this point.
Don't see any comments in the room. Is there anyone online?
I don't see any.
I do have a question. Maybe
Yeah.
the board has a couple too. Can you tell me when S23 overlay or construction on parts and portions of S23 is targeted?
So if we were to target that roadway, we're looking out to, I'd say fiscal year 25 or 26, which is, you didn't receive this chart with your packet. I gave you a year in balance, but this one shows month to month. So given that's an FM route, every time you see that light blue line spike down, we're letting another project or two. So that first spike down in the line in fiscal year 22 would be your R57 overlay, and then the Liberty Center overlay we discussed. And then that next spike down in fiscal year 24 is the R57 over North River Bridge program at 1.6 million. So we would hope you could put that sort of project in possibly fiscal year 25 or 26. Potentially beyond that. The reason we don't list it in those years is there's enough time where we can get bids in on the R57 and Liberty Center projects, and hopefully they're far lower than what's programmed, and then we'll have a better idea of what fiscal year to place S23 in. We're also targeting Scotch Ridge Road into Carlisle at some point. What we're waiting on with that one is around fiscal year 27 and beyond. There might be some SERPA money freed up, which is the Central Iowa Regional Transportation Planning Authority, as part of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. A lot of different acronyms here, but we think some money will free up around fiscal year 27. We were discussing that with them for that project. So we do feel that the S23 project would be next in line after R57
For the farm to market dollars?
for farm to market allocation.
I would just make a point to note that it would be my preference to make that happen with farm to market dollars when it's available. I know that it's been a long time. I think it's been a long, long time coming for that road, and I do understand that Scott Creek just its attention, so I just don't want it to continue to get pushed back.
Yeah, and that's why we want to wait on bids on the R57 overlay. We're going to try a more high performance lift of asphalt, which is a thinner overlay. Reason being, on R57 especially, we had 12 inches of concrete to work with. It started out as a 6-inch concrete road. They overlaid another 6 inches. So the reason it's in such bad shape is really due to the concrete deteriorating earlier than expected. But it does have a lot of base to work with. So hopefully if we can get a thin overlay on it, and maybe even do some of the edge rocking ourselves on that road. If we just have an inch to do, we can do that ourselves. We could save some dollars on that project, which would only allow the S23 project to be done in a closer year. But we just want to see those numbers come in first.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for our engineer?
I'm grateful the way that you have used this money in the past and as you plan to use it going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comments, do we have a motion to exit public hearing?
Make a motion to exit public hearing.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Do we have a motion to, Megan, do we need to adopt the 5-year construction program? Do we have a motion to adopt?
I will make the motion to adopt the 5-year plan as presented by our county engineer.
Second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up on the agenda is item number 3, public hearing for review of final plat of Splendid Acre subdivision, plat number 2, submitted by MJM Trust, care of Mildred McDonald with possible action. My understanding, this is a second reading or second hearing on it. Do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
Make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. We are now in public hearing. Good morning, Lindsay.
Morning. Okay. Megan's gonna pull up an email that, we just emailed her. It actually has a PDF in it of the plat 2 for Splendid Acres. David and I have been working closely with Dorrance and, at ARC with civil engineering consultants, trying to, this goes back to 2019, trying to get this replat taken care of. And, you heard this at your last meeting, and this is the second reading, and I'm not sure that we are ready to proceed with a vote today, so we need to go on with a third reading. I think there's an issue. I had a neighbor contact me this morning. I think they've been asked to sign an easement, and it was our understanding that this was going to be taken care of with no easement, so I'll kind of let that come out. I know David has, I went out, I'm not as well versed on the roads as David, obviously that's his area, him and Tim's, and I know they've been out, and I'm gonna let David kind of take it from here and kind of address his concerns with the roads. It's definitely not up to the county standards per our ordinance, so I'll kind of let David take it from here, and then we'll kind of go.
I don't know if people can see. So these gray lines here, if you can see where the mouse is kind of hovering, that's where it was originally platted. Was it back in 2009 or so? 2007, okay. And I could pull up Beacon too. This, where it was originally platted, there was a foundation of a home built right in the middle of this road. So after several meetings, we decided they could submit a new plat, and we worked with their engineer to get the right horizontal curve radiuses and things of that nature for a 25-mile-per-hour road. And so this is what we came up with. And then that puts that foundation back outside of the required 50-foot building setback. And I might pull up Beacon might help to get an aerial view of it. Bear with me. So this was where the roads was originally supposed to go, and you can see the foundation in the roadway. So I'll do some crude drawing here, but so what we came up with was to put the road right back here, which is shown in the new plat, and then it warps back down to the existing road to put that house back outside of that 50-foot setback. So what we've asked them to do is to put that first stretch of road on the east side back in the middle of these, I guess, frontage lot lines where it should go according to the plat. And that would satisfy the engineer and zoning office if that were to occur, because ideally where you plat the road is where the road should go. And that's what we've been kind of waiting on and discussing with the parties involved.
And the neighbor that was asked to sign the easement lives on this parcel right here. And you can see where it was originally, the drive originally was going across that, and so that's what we were doing with actually asking them to move the road, is getting it off of their property. So they were asked last night to sign an easement, and we had told them, we had told Dorrance, you know, we were in agreement with Dorrance and Ed that there wouldn't need to be an easement with the neighbor. So the neighbor did not sign the easement for today's meeting. I still think there's some issues with Dorrance and Ed. They have Vanderpool. There's an issue to the south of this in the same development that came up with the water lines. They're having to do a plat 3 down off of Quincy Trail, coming off the highway. So they're in front of us in the zoning commission for plat 3, and that was with Warren Water, and they have Vanderpool hired. So they have Vanderpool hired to do plat 3. I think we just need them to work with Vanderpool or whoever, but we have a line of credit that, if they don't get the work done, we have a line of credit submitted that if they don't come in and get the work done and do the road correctly, then we've never had to do that before, but I guess if we have to, then I don't know, then I guess the county uses that line of credit and puts the road in the way it should be, and but I'd like to see it hopefully worked out before it comes to that. But again, they did put a line of credit down at the last meeting for this, so but I still think there's some issues. I don't think it's ready to be voted upon today. think David probably feels the same way on that. I think there's just some things we need to get worked out. So, and I know Dorrance is here, and I know Julie that lives across the road, that would affect the neighbor to the north there with the new road. She's here, and I know Anastasia, the one that has the easement going through, or the road going through it right now. I know she's here as well, and she was the one who was asked to sign the easement. So I don't know if there was just a misunderstanding about the easement. Dorrance thinking they needed to have the easement, but it was our understanding, David and I, that they did not have to have an easement for this new road. It's just not being put, the construction is not being done where it needs to be done. So.
In summary, we feel like the road should go where the plat shows a roadway. And we came up with this to not impact, lot corners and lot lines, because what's happening is they're selling properties prior to the road being built, and then there's some risk involved with that. Which is where moving forward in the process, we want to approve final plat till either they install the roads and utilities first, or post things like performance bonds or lines of credit. And we're really doing that to protect the public and potential buyers out there, that they have appropriate access to their properties.
Okay, thank you. We are in public hearing, and I really welcome the thoughts from the neighbors and the developers. Anyone like that?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Dorrance. The road Pineville Trail was built when R57 was under construction. When the R57 was under construction, there was a tremendous amount of dirt brought in to level this road out. And when Polk Trail was designed by CEC and Mr. McIntosh built the road, they had not yet raised this road. So these were done simultaneously, as was the, if you can lift that up just a little bit. This alignment was designed and approved by the Board of Supervisors in that planning process, but this road had not yet been constructed. So the construction company to build the road gave us the Quincy Trail access where it was deemed appropriate at that time, which was moved up to this area because there's a water line that was there prior to the road being constructed here or here. There was a pumping station in place. That pumping station serves all the way to St. Charles. It cannot be changed, as what we're told today. It would be you'd have to start way back here, be re-elevated, long story, this can't be done. I think with these counties giving me the access for Quincy Trail is currently, there's a sign there that says Quincy Trail, and it's very appropriate. So this had to be rerouted, and that has been submitted. There's no lot sales in here, nobody's built yet. That road will be built within the standards that the engineer would like to see done today. This road is in, and it was Mr. McIntosh to put it there. I didn't build the road, but I was responsible to stand there and say, here's the plan. And so, but anyway, it is what it is today. And Victor built his house over here in this road right away, so that became an issue. We tried to do everything we could do to widen this. The understanding that I have is that the road does not have to be in the center line, but it needs to be within these two boundaries. And we're trying to do the best we can. There's a septic tank field, this one was over there, the driveway, we're as far on that ridge as we can be. And it does, there's just this slope, the way there's septic tank, we don't want to cause more problem, just to be technical on the road. And I think that's a fair issue. The issues where people build garages too close to the property line, and so we didn't want anybody to have to move a garage. We just said, no, we'll sign up on that, that's okay. And we still cut that little corner just a bit. I do have the survey information. And what I was asking them to sign on this, if you hand that to them, please, and thank you. There's a little corner that they would ingress in this corner right here, which would technically require an easement, in my opinion. I was just told that it should be done right, the easement, so that if they just keep driving over like they've been doing for 12 years, it'll be what it'll be. The rest is up to the neighbors that are up for discussion. Any questions?
And we worked with them on the south half, and they came out, it's not gonna be shown in this drawing, because it, it hasn't been recorded or anything, but they have presented a plan on the south half that does work and meets our specifications, as long as they put the road where it's platted to go, which a lot of problems would be solved if a surveyor was called out there to stake lot corners and lot lines, because then you know where everything's at. So we have no issue in the south half with, after several meetings, we came to I guess a consensus to reroute these cul-de-sacs in this area and then provide a different access point down here. So we have no issues in this south half as long as it's built appropriately. I think our main issue today is the road not matching this area.
So I think we kind of would like approval on the plat 3 side of it, so we continue to proceed there. And I don't know if we'll do a variance or whatever we need to do to make that, to keep our engineer happy, which we want to do, of course. And the best interest of everybody over here, I think I'll let them say what they want to say, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
So this red line represents this new alignment that was submitted. So we're just asking they put the road within this lot G.
Which does not reflect anything on the Parker's lot, correct, David?
Yes, which would not affect lot 21 and then the lot west of there, which is the Parkers.
Anastasia, did you have anything you wanted to come up and speak about? Or Julie?
I think both of us.
Okay, you can come up together if you want.
Thank you. Please identify your name and the lot too would be helpful.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Anastasia Parker. This is mine. We bought this in 2006. When we bought it, this part of the road up past us was complete. Nothing was done, that's how it was. We bought it, the first homeowners. We went by the property stakes that we were informed that were our properties. And later, we had my husband's cousin, who used to work for the city of Indianola, come out, and he actually had one of those tracker things, and we found out in 2008, our property stake was on the other side of the road. We pointed it out, nothing was done. IAMA came in, talked to the gentleman in zoning, and he said it was incorrect. And nothing was done. This issue, like Lindsay said, has been going on for 2 years. It got pushed back because we found out later our garage was too close to the property line. First-time homeowners, we were informed to save money, you didn't have to get a building permit in the country. Well, we lived and learned, never do that again. Now we're finding out by where our property stakes really are, we are like 2 feet away from the property line. We got that part taken care of. We signed a form with Dorrance and Joanne saying that we will agree to the road construction and they're okay with the setback. And they filed it with zoning, we have a copy, everything is signed. This has been going on for I don't know how many years now. We were just informed last night about this easement that they're wanting us to sign. I thought we were done and taken care of back in January. So, I called and spoke to Carrie last week, talked to her last week about, we're not listed, we need to be there. And she's like, yes. And I'm just like, great. But my opinion is, We gave many options on how this road could have been fixed when we were in a debate about with the garage too. We offered to sell that part of the land with no easement. From the recording that we did on our conference call, I do believe Dorrance did agree to it. They drew up papers, but on the papers it said with easement. My husband and I do not want an easement. We spoke to other realtors. It is hard to sell with an easement. We also offered extending our land to make up for the land we're losing. That was knocked down too. Suppose we were always trying to get the lot to the south of us, which we always actually rather have the lot that Dorrance owns, isn't buying on contract. But that's never happened either. So I mean, we have tried to make the deals and options as well. My biggest concern though on the whole thing is Mike and Julie have 2 kids. They're outside playing. We have 2 dogs. And honestly, between the 2 houses, the kids and the dogs run back and forth. They're going to lose a lot of their front yard. And I mean, that's my concern there on it. I didn't know the speed limit was 25 on that road.
That's whatever you guys said.
Because I got children at play sign, drive slow.
It's a design speed, but it's whatever the homeowners association wants to set. Really.
Which we don't have. We are having a meeting tomorrow for this. So I mean, I just feel like everything right now is being thrown in within a few days. So we have the meeting today. I was approached last night, and then tomorrow we're having a homeowners association. So I mean, I just feel like everything's getting thrown in. And I mean, this has been like this since 2006. Why is this falling on my husband's shoulders and Mike and Julie's shoulders now? Why has this not been approached? From what I understand, if you're 500 feet from the issue, you're included in these. So when we were having an issue with our garage, Joanne's house was included in it, which is further north of Mike and Julie's, because it's 500 feet. So when that house was being built, why wasn't it noticed about the road then? Why was it brought up when Mike and Julie were building their house? I mean, this is where I'm getting really lost and confused, because nothing was brought up until Victor built his foundation. And that was just a few years ago.
I want to say 17.
17, okay. So, I mean, that's why I'm lost and confused on the whole ordeal. Because I am so tired of this, having to deal with this, and I don't feel like it is my battle or my situation. We bought in 2006. We went by the realtor's words, went and did the mortgage through the bank that they recommended. We did everything. And now here we are, we've lived there 15 years, and now we're being told all this stuff. And that's what I'm not understanding, that's what I'm confused on the most, and I am so tired of getting stressed out about this. So, I mean, yes, I want something fixed. We do not want an easement. And I want this settled. And like I said, I thought everything was done in January. But that's just my 2 cents.
Right, so to avoid the easement, the road would need to go where it was originally platted, right here.
Mm-hmm. Or like we offered before, we've offered to sell.
Because these
We
lot
offered to
lines
extend.
never change, so what's so challenging about this is everyone seems to be encroaching on each other. Even this house wasn't built outside of that 50-foot setback.
Uh-huh.
So you'd have a larger front yard if this house was actually staked and set back outside of that 50-foot setback. I think it's 30 feet from the,
Come on up, Julie. Come on up.
We have paperwork saying that our house can be built right there. I'm Julie, that's my house, I'm lot 21. We spent at least 2 months dealing with Dorrance and the county and whoever to get approval to have our house there. If we move it back any further, we're in the creek. There's a creek behind there. And that was about our only option unless we wanted to be 20 right off that ditch. So we've got paperwork, our builder has paperwork, because he said he would not build without a signature saying that we were okay there. So that's why we are where we are. When we were told, when we bought the lot, our impression was, we stood right in that gravel road, and then we were told we owned from that road back to the creek. And now that's why we're upset, we're confused, because we weren't explained this whole easement deal. And we aren't being told when the construction's going on this road. And as Anna said, it's dipping into our property as we thought it was. And so it's just angering because we've got no communication, no one's telling us what's going on. Our road's getting dug up, our yard looks like heck, and we obviously can't move our house. So, I mean, we've only been dealing with this for 6 years as compared to their 15, but it's still a lot of stress and frustration. And if it was easy to move, we would, but it's not, you know, that easy.
When was the house built then?
Mine,
Yeah.
2015. We moved in December 24th, so we've been there for almost 5.5 years.
We broke land for Labor Day.
Yes, it was like the 1st of September is when they dug our hole. And we finally got, like I said, 2 months before we had all of the signatures we needed for our builder to proceed. So someone's got that on file somewhere.
Do you know the zoning grant?
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that I sympathize with both of you. I didn't do this, but I just want to find the best resolution for all involved. Clearly, you can't move your house. That's out. You bought something with the expectation that it is what it is. And if that changes, then I think you should have your expectations met. I also want to find out whatever the best resolution is to go forward. And I don't know what that is, so we're certainly not approving anything. I'm not going to vote, I doubt Crystal and Gary will either, to rush anything forward. I need to have all parties to be satisfied with the end result. And if that doesn't happen, then I think that the development's going to have a real issue moving forward, because I don't think our zoning department or our engineer are going to be green lighting something that's incorrect. I don't know what the fix is. I don't sit up here and pretend that I know that road should move and that's the best outcome, or the road should stay exactly where it is and that's the best outcome. I don't know, but all of the parties need to be on board with it before I'm going to say, yes, approve the plat. That's just my take.
And we never seen how that road was actually supposed to be. No one's ever given us maps. I mean, everything they give us, there's like 20 lines drawn, and then we don't know which, we don't read the stuff every day, so we don't know which one's the right one. So I mean, this was the most clear map we have seen to where that road is. And I mean, it's devastating. It really is devastating. I mean, I don't know how it got approved in the first place back in 06. That is where I am the most confused on how did all this get taken care of back in 06. I mean, because I'm assuming when the road's being done, don't they come in and check to make sure when it's done that everything is done correctly?
We do now.
They do. New rules.
There was no, and I'll be honest, there was no lines of credit, performance bonds request.
Or they waived them in the
They
past.
waived it. None of that was ever required until 2000.
So I mean, not needing a building permit was actually okay back in 06.
No comment.
Hey, I got something going on file now, so I'm saying.
Again, like, engineering and zoning, and David and I feel your frustration too. you know, but our offices do work very hand in hand and should have probably been over all the years too. Haven't always. There's been some things in the ordinance that should probably have been, you know, performance bonds should have probably been required and asked for, and so here we are. We just, and I, you know, as Aaron says, you know, the two of us are not green lighting anything at this. We're not, you know, I said that in the very beginning. We're not ready to say go forward today. I feel Doran's and Joanne's frustration. I know you're frustrated. I mean, it all stemmed from, I will tell you, the 500 feet notification, that comes for a public hearing. That's not for like a building permit. That comes for a public hearing notification. So that's that clarification for you. And you know, you're not listed as a lot because we weren't thinking an easement was gonna be. So if we would have known the easement thing would have been, then we would have listed your lot in there. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense.
But the way that this is drawn, it really isn't your, you know, and this is really how the original plat back in 2006, right, David? Am I not correct?
Yeah, this.
Yeah, I
kind of
This lot
I have
G.
that.
I mean, that's really how it should have been in the beginning, and so this is kind of back to 2006. So, you know, we can try to have a work session and see where we get. Where, you know, I totally get everybody's perspective. We're tired of it too. You know?
I know.
I mean, it's
I thought Carrie
and we
missed
just
me when I called the other day.
we just keep getting maps and maps. And, you know, we're trying to keep everything straight and which map is which map and you know, so, you know, I think the next step is, before we bring it maybe forward for a third reading, we've got to be ready to have a solution before we have, I don't know your thoughts, we've got to have a solution, you know.
When all of this started, it all started 2 years ago over the road. And then I don't know how my garage got started into it. Then our garage got thrown into it. And we are now almost $6,000 in debt with an attorney because of this, and we're still nowhere.
Yeah.
And
And so,
Has the garage issue been remedied at this point?
yeah, we signed
the
things.
garage issue is remedied at
Yeah,
this
you want,
point.
I got a copy if you want to see. Okay. Yeah, we agreed to road construction, and they agreed to the setback.
But it was my understanding, and maybe I'm speaking out wrong, but here, it was my understanding, and I did clarify that with Dorrance this morning, because it was my understanding when you agreed to that, when he agreed to that variance, when they agreed to that variance for your garage, and you agreed to the road construction, it was my understanding that you agreed to the road construction per this plat.
Yeah.
Not for a road easement.
No
So
easement.
that was my understanding.
Yeah,
So
we have never agreed to an easement.
so that was my.
Yeah, that's why when we
So
offered to sell.
I would say yes.
Yeah, when we offered to sell, they drew up papers, his attorney drew up papers, sent the papers to us for me to sign, and it said that they were buying it with an easement. We do not want an easement.
Yeah, so that was my understanding on that agreement. So in my eyes, the garage thing is taken care of, but we still need to find a workable solution for the road with Julie, the Parkers, Dorrance.
And this easement is different than a regular basic easement from my understanding. Anybody who lives on a road, they have the easement that they have to maintain and take care of from the center of the road to property line. This easement, from what I understand, is easement onto my property, not from the center of the road and back. So that's the easement we are not wanting. We're wanting our property. So that's that.
Yeah, because lot G is shown here, if you can see the mouse. That's how it was originally platted back in 2006, 2007. So we worked to come up with this new alignment here, so it would have zero impact to your lot lines.
But then again, that goes into Mike and Julie's yard.
And where you drew that red line on that other map, I mean, that is like digging, that's right over all the electric and water, and that butted right up to our electrical box. So how is that, my question is, our lot has never been on any of these letters that I've gotten in the mail, which is why this is the first time I'm here. Because we were told it does not affect us. But when my easement is getting dug up with no notification, how is this not affecting me? If you're moving the road, you know, up 10 feet down towards my house, how does this not affect me? Is my question.
That's how it was originally platted.
Right,
When
and
you
you
bought
put that
the
red line
property.
saying
Yes.
that's where you guys want to move the road. Well, how does that not affect me when that's my house that sits right there?
So you weren't notified, is that what you're saying?
We've got these letters in the mail, but our lot has never been on these letters, which is why I've never come to these meetings. And we had a knock on our front door, maybe, if so, a week in advance or 2 days in advance before they've already dug up part of our easement to move this road over to bypass their property. And there was no, are you okay with this? There was no,
It's-
I mean, it was just basically, this is what's gonna be done, whether we liked it or not.
And the road's not actually in an easement, it's in its own lot in this development. So this is a dedicated lot for the roadway.
So there's not an easement to that road?
It was labeled as Lot G in the plat. So it's its own lot. It can be done as an easement or a lot, it's private, so we can get
Okay.
into that, but it was platted as its own lot. So it's not technically an easement running through by your property, it's its own lot adjacent to your property.
Okay, so are we responsible for maintaining that, or can we just maintain within our property pins?
That's what the covenant should cover in the homeowners association.
Because
Oh,
like
we
I
don't
said,
have
we were
one.
originally told
Right.
to go from the road back. We
But
didn't,
typically, it might say after 75% or all lots get sold, you know, or some higher percentage, then the HOA would kick in, and that's what you generally see in covenants
I got a copy of it. I'm the only one with a copy.
of the covenants.
Yeah.
But usually, a developer would sell, say, 75% of lots, and then the HOA would start maintaining the roadway. But ideally, that's after all the roads and utilities are built before they start selling lots.
Who's maintaining the roadway now as it sits?
people that live there.
We plow it in the wintertime when the rock is bad. Joanne and Dorrance do get the rock, but I mean, it's their development. So, I mean, I know Joanne's been hurt because of how much it's costing and stuff, but I mean,
That's the investment.
yeah, we didn't buy to maintain a road too, so, but,
Well, it seems like it's its own separate lot as well, so it really wouldn't be yours to bear, I wouldn't assume.
but I mean, I will
Unless
give
you signed on for
credit
that.
to all the neighbors there. We all do work on it in the wintertime and maintain it, and we do mow all the way up to the road, so the grass is not like overgrowing. I mean, granted, out of all the yards, Mike and Julie's was the prettiest. But, I mean, because we got Brian and Shelley Fluharty, who have a tractor, he plows it as well, and Mike plows, and my husband plows. And we go around and do everybody.
So procedurally, as we sit here, the road is already started to move. Is that right? It's moving.
I think they put 3 to 4 foot of rock on the north edge of it. in
I
this
got
area.
pictures.
Which is what we were told was all they were going to
Can we
do.
see that?
You want to see those pictures? Okay.
I think it's all we can do.
Well, then why is he drawing this red line that butts up to my electrical box where they want to put the road?
That's what we're here. We can't put the road where he wants it, where the engineering wants it, so our fight isn't with the neighbors, it's for engineering maybe, I don't know who.
That's how it was platted.
It's how, yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's how it was platted. And then-
There's,
Right, but I mean, I'm just, yeah, we're all here for answers, but it's like, I would like to be notified when things are going on. That's my biggest issue. Is he knocks on my door and says, this is what's going on, and this is why, and it's like, well, if this is what's been going on for 4 years, why didn't somebody tell me 4 years ago that this was in discussion? Why are you telling me when the Bobcat's showing up tomorrow to dig it up? You know what I mean?
when we did bring Bobcats out and we widened the road, as we agreed to do in other meetings, the road was always there, the road was already there. When we dug out, we found that the grass had grown over the existing road, the matting was all there. Fortunately, we do have pictures of the original construction when we started, when Mr. McInish began, with the center lines, everything was built right. But then as time went along, and they turned the corner, things moved a little bit, the road kind of shifted a little bit because of the land use, because of the way they were using it. When this house was built, it was built too close to this line, and nobody addressed that issue then. But if it wasn't addressed, it was approved, it was okay. Everybody's kind of, it is what it is. This road was not built, so when they did build this road, and we were building our road at the same time, the elevation on this came up so high that it did change how this road would be with the sloping that was here. So I'm not saying it was the engineer's problem, we just built where it was built. Mr. McInish did the work, we paid for it, that's our line of responsibility. The part here is where we came in problem when Victor put his house in the road right away. That became a stop, yeah, that had to be addressed. Victor digs basements for a living, for Monarch. He didn't get a site survey when he built his basement.
Did you say he did or didn't?
He did not. That would have solved the problem right there.
Right.
So I'm not blaming anybody for mistakes. I'm just saying that that was one that was probably the thing that triggered all of the rest of the information that we're being presented today.
That roadway was built in 2004, I believe. So that was prior to you owning the ground.
No. Oh, repeat that again?
The roadway was built in 2004 prior to this being platted.
No, that's all. There was never a road here. There was never a road.
Because the date I see on the plans is, it was signed in 2003, so I'm guessing it was built in calendar year 2004.
Whatever they built R57 at the same time. We have got pictures on me of that. I mean, the road was impassable to this site.
By 2006, that Hope Trail was done up to my driveway. And it stops, because on my pictures of us moving, you can see fresh rock and the black tarp under it.
I'm just saying that we feel the road came 2 years prior to the building.
Oh, okay.
So to say it was built in conjunction, I don't think is correct.
Well, I have a picture to show that's not true. It was built same time.
Okay.
I was there.
But in reality, when you built that road, it wasn't built in the right spot to begin with.
Right.
That's right.
That's the only thing.
I know this, absolutely, that's right, because as they were building this, and we were building that at the same time, the elevation of this road changed dramatically. And that made a complete difference in how much slope there was from here to there. And so this road was built according to the slope and the ridge of the road and the lining up of this road. The county gave us this entrance and this entrance and that entrance because of the R57 connection. They had to build that part. Same contractors that built this, built that, built the one up here.
Because we don't typically install new entrances when we build a road, and I can't speak on 2004, but we just modify what's existing.
Well, regardless, the entrance is where it should be, it's just
Yes.
where you added the road on wasn't.
That's correct, yes, I'm in agreement with that, and it's been that way since it was built. So when these houses came in, and this is, we did, all this change was so that this would be in compliance, so it would be in the right of way. So that's why it started all this. This is why it wasn't addressed before, because this road was workable, this home was workable, this was fine, it's just a quarter of their lot that we still drive over. There's a easement required. It's been that way since 2004 or 6, whatever that time period was. Is an easement by prescription, all kinds of information that could further this conversation for a long time. The part that's most important is that we have sold the rest of the project. We have the road going in with Vanderpool. I'm sure Vanderpool will be very studious about following the center lines and the setbacks, things of that nature. So we'd like to be able to proceed with the road coming in phase 3. I guess it's plat number now, or whatever it is. This will have to be resolved in a workshop of some kind. When we allowed this variance to happen, or this agreement, it was based on, here's what it is, this is where it is, and nothing's changed, nobody moved any lines or stakes. It is what it is, that was what was agreed upon. it's not probably feasible that they would move their garage, probably not. But, so we've let that be. Probably not feasible that we can move the road, so we thought we had an agreement that that would be. But, any questions?
It's a challenge.
I don't at this point. I would just encourage all to explore all options. By all, I mean all options, inclusive of the current road. I mean, I'm not saying that would be a deviation. It would be a deviation from what was platted, but that might be the best solution. I don't know. But I will say I'm not going forward with it until all the neighbors and our zoning and engineer have come up with a solution that is agreeable. That would be my preference.
I am interested in seeing these pictures. Okay.
Can you throw like a line
So, this is him dirt lighting it. This is all the way to Mike and Julie's yard. That's going up to the north. And that dot right, that hole is my property. So, I mean, that's how they light it up. So, and as you can tell right there, it's washing out into their yard too.
This does not mean go to the engineer's
Right.
specs.
And if a car swerves around, like if my husband and I don't know, want to be jerks and we park a truck right there on our property, there's no way a vehicle can avoid it and circle around without losing and going down into Mike and Julie's because theirs is a steep ditch there. So, and then like Dorrance said, we did have an agreement and it does state that both parties agree to the reconstruction of Pope Trail. Nothing about an easement. And that was on that's number one that we signed.
Well, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is very simple. You had a lot to build a road and it wasn't built correctly. It needs to be built correctly.
I'd say it either needs to be built correctly or you purchase the land around the existing road and make that your new lot and do that as your replat.
Right.
If you don't want to move the road or physically can't move the road, then you do what you need to do to actually make that the new lot.
And we have offered that.
Yeah,
I know that's right,
but I'm saying there's your new
I
lot.
know, we
Right.
gave
You're
many
the first, right?
options.
So-
Yeah, I think if we have, I think there's some things to discuss in a work session. I think, you know, yeah, I think we can talk about some things in a work session. So,
I would just want to concur with Chairman DeCook that until everybody's happy here, I'm not going to move anything through. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, when you buy a home, you're buying what you thought you owned. And here we're finding out we own a road.
to me, there was just the planning back in 2005 and 6 was not done properly. And we're all just living with how we planned 15 or 20 years ago and how we developed 15 or 20 years ago. These are just implications of that. But you can be just rest assured that we're aware of your situation and we're empathetic with it, and we'll look real hard to make sure that you're in agreement with things before anything gets changed.
Just take a look at all options and come back when we have a plan that's
we'll
agreeable.
do the third reading.
We can push that off as long
Push
as.
that
Do a
off
third
until
reading.
you.
We'll let you know, I'll let
until
you know
guys
when
feel
we're
that
ready
it's
for a
all
third
in.
reading. Yep. Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to go out of close that, public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. All right, number 4, consider application for road closure event on a portion of Highway G24 submitted by Palmyra Church Partnership with possible action.
Thank you.
come on up. Please state your name and.
Judy Russell, representing the Palmyra Church Partnership. We're a group of 60-year-old kids that are coming back and trying to raise money to help finish the restoration of the historic Palmyra Church. And we'd like to have a 5K race walk, and we've estimated it'll take 2 hours. Hartford City is helping with the barricades and rescue service, in case anyone, it's too much room, whatever.
Would it help if we pull a map up of the,
Sure.
it's hard switching between Zoom meetings and map.
First you have to find Palmyra. There are no easements involved.
Thank you.
It's a little too soon. I'm kidding. You're fine. Well, tell me a little bit about the 5K while they're pulling that up. People, number of people already entered?
I've got a little map right on our website.
Nice to see this.
Okay. So the church sits at the intersection of S23. So it would be from this side of the church, there's a little east street, which we would leave open. There we go. And we would stop right before the road turns north into Hartford. So a little farther out. Yeah, so we would stop right before here.
Are they going eastbound and then turning around and going westbound back to the church, or?
They're going down and right back, straight shot.
And then what was the time and date?
9 to 11,
Okay.
what they have estimated it. The fast people will probably do it in 15 minutes. The walkers are allowing 2 hours.
Is it something you would entertain, I guess, hiring out a deputy or two to escort the event, or how do you?
Actually, I have reached out to the Carlisle police
Okay.
and asked if they would like to sit there at the S23 area anyway. And we are picking up more traffic along there right now because of the work being done on the bridge on S23. I hope we're.
That'll be done
finished by then.
before.
We're hoping to open it up Friday.
Oh, awesome.
We got rain in the forecast, so we can't
Yeah.
promise it.
And what's the date again?
May 15th. Saturday. I have a lot of dates in my head right now.
Okay, there it is. Yep.
So for local traffic, is this still gonna be a live road, or?
Local traffic will still be able to, if they need to come from Hartford, they can still go down there and go around. And then we won't be stopping anything on S23. The only road would be 200th Avenue right there.
I think he's talking about the people who live on the road. There's a few houses there.
What, the 6 people?
Yeah, just make sure they can still get in and
Yeah.
out.
Half of those 6 people are involved in our committee.
That's good.
There's only one person that I haven't contacted, doesn't know about it yet.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are you gonna reach out to that one that you haven't contacted?
Pardon?
Are you gonna reach out to that one?
Oh, definitely, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. We're just waiting to get approved first before.
Are you able to contact a, I guess, traffic control company that could put some road closed through traffic signs?
Well,
up in
Hartford
each-
offered to put up the barricades with
Okay.
the road closed.
I think if you notify them at each end that the road's closed through traffic, and you have some police or deputy escorts, it should be fine, unless, Tim, you have any other.
That's our plan.
But that, if you can do those 2 things, then I think it'll be a safe event,
So if you got
especially with the escorts.
And I believe the Hartford city person, Steve Eckert, has already mentioned mentioned he'd probably reach out to Warren County to see if there's anything also that might be needed.
So we need to have those two things done before we can approve then.
Yeah, it's
Right.
nice to see that several parties involved with Carlisle and Hartford to help out.
Okay.
So it's not all
What would
our,
that look like?
Probably a letter from them stating that they will render services for your event and state how they will support your event.
Okay, and will that then be presented at your next meeting, and what is the time frame of that next meeting?
I would do this. I'm comfortable with it. I assume that those things are gonna happen. I have no reason to believe that Hartford and Carlisle won't be involved if you're saying that they will. So why don't we just make it contingent upon it, approve it contingent upon their involvement with a barricade or at least one LEO out there. I'm fine with that then. We can speed it up a bit. Otherwise, you gotta come back to another one.
Yeah.
I don't know as though it's needed.
So just as soon as possible, get something sent in.
Yeah, just have them email to the board office, that they're gonna put up a barricade on the ends and one of
Yeah, we've
the
got-
volunteer fire
Yeah,
department folks
three
are-
barricade. We thought we'd put the rescue unit also, just at that end as kind of a barricade also. Bedford Rescue Unit.
Yep. And then assuming those things happen, which I think that they will, then I'd be happy to approve it contingent upon those happening. We can have a good event, you don't have to bring you back for
All
another
right,
part.
then you'll be hearing from me again.
sounds good.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you
Appreciate your
very
time.
much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your work.
And so with that, I'll make a motion to approve the road closure event for a portion of Highway G24 as presented, Paul Meyer Church Partnership, contingent upon involvement from Hartford and/or Carlisle regarding barricades and at least one individual monitoring at the end of it.
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement, yeah.
Second.
Any discussion? Tracy?
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing from you.
Good.
All right, number 5 on the agenda is consider April 2021 Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation of possible action.
Val Cameron was online, but she had another meeting to go to since we were running a little bit late, so she is offline. I can read the proclamation, or if you would like to, Chairman, you can read the proclamation.
Right. Whereas our children are our most valuable resource and will shape the future of Indianola. Whereas child abuse and neglect directly harms children and increases the likelihood of long-term physical and mental health problems, alcohol and substance abuse, continued family violence, and criminal behavior. Whereas children suffering from child abuse are more likely to engage in risky behavior, perform poorly in school, develop unhealthy relationships, suffer from depression, attempt suicide, and express violent aggression. And whereas only $1 is spent on preventing child abuse in Iowa for every $50 spent on treating it. And whereas Iowa is leading research efforts to better understand the negative long-term outcomes of child abuse and neglect among adults through the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, ACEs, which shows that poor physical health, mental health, and financial health in adulthood is attributed to adverse experiences in childhood, including abuse and neglect. And whereas the risk of abuse is reduced through strong social supports for adults and children, and whereas research shows that the presence of one caring relationship in a child's life mitigates negative outcomes and reduces risk factors, resulting in better physical health, mental health, financial health, and whereas positive social supports for children and adults are key factors to improving social well-being in Iowa. And now, therefore, I, Aaron DeCook, and the Board of the Warren County Supervisors do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Warren County and urge all citizens in our community to increase their participation in building caring connections with families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the community in which we live. In testimony,
That's just for the auditor.
there we go.
You can stop.
The proclamation has been read. Do we have a motion to adopt it?
I'll make a motion to adopt the child abuse proclamation for Warren County.
Second.
Any discussion?
McIntyre,
Aye.
Heater,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, number 6, consider wellness points list with possible action.
Good morning. I'll try to keep this short for you. So we had, at our last wellness meeting, we added, or the committee voted to add COVID shots. We thought we would do 15 per shot with a maximum of 30 points. Employees would have to show that they got they'd have to show the card that they got their shots to get those points. And then we also voted to add workout at home as an option. A lot of people last year, because of COVID, couldn't go to the gym, so a lot of our employees have bought workout at home equipment. They would just have to be able to track it via a fitness app, a watch, Fitbit. They would have to show that they did 10 extra workouts, and then we would count that as going to a gym. As long as they did 10 of them, they would get 25 points a month. So those are our 2 additions that we would like to see added to the wellness points for this year, and it would go back to December 1st of 2020, which was the start of this wellness year. So that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Mallory?
I think so.
I make a motion to approve those wellness points going forth and dated back for Warren County employees.
A second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Heater,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 7, consider Warren County isolation and quarantine policy and procedures 2021 with possible action.
Jodine is online. This is coming from public health. There's been no changes. This is each year, the board adopts this after the Board of Health does. It's my understanding there were no changes to it. It's the same as it was last year. But if you have anything to add, Jodine.
No, that's right. It's not changed. The Board of Health approved this in March. So then we bring it to you guys.
Any questions for our health director? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt?
I make a motion to adopt the Warren County isolation quarantine policy and procedure for 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Heater,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Jody. Number 8 on the agenda is consider Granicus amendment for website redesign with possible action.
Well, Matt, did you want to say anything, or I can take it over from here too?
Do you have any questions for me regarding it?
Our board assistant brought forth the last page of the agreement, which had terms and a maintenance fee that I felt was egregious to the county, to say the least. And I did call the owner, or was it the CEO of the company, yesterday to negotiate the price down and the terms, and he was not able to accommodate in any way, shape, or form. So I said thank you, and just want to know if the board is interested in going with the other vendor. I know we can't make that motion now because it's not on the agenda, but we can get those that contract together and bring that before the board at the next time.
I think at this point, I'd like to make a motion to rescind the previous resolution 2178, and request that the Grady and 9 agreement be placed on the next available agenda.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I think maybe for the public's benefit, let's discuss the terms. Just I agree with it generally.
Oh, this is for a website, by the way, redoing our current website.
But if I was just watching this, I might not be tracking 100%. So we entered into an agreement with Granicus to redesign a website for Warren County. There was 2 bidders that we selected from. We went with the Granicus proposal. It was slightly more to start, but there was reasons why we selected them. When it came time to receive the signature page, additional terms were included to that were not before the board when we made that decision, including an approximate $4,000 a year maintenance fee for a term of maybe 5 years.
Actually, sir, it's higher than that, because once we saw that, it went out to an ever-increasing amount that was close to $20,000 above the original project cost, and they required a 5-year agreement, and they said that it was standard, which, no,
Yeah, so the board made a decision based on some incomplete facts, or at least we were unaware of where they were at or what they were in totality pitching to us. And so for that reason, we have a motion to rescind and a second. I suppose the next step would be to look at our other options, and we'll have a separate meeting to handle that. We can relook at this in its totality and still weigh out the pros and the cons of it, or we can look at another provider. But at this point, we need to rescind what we've done. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further, those are my thoughts, is there any further discussion? I would just say I do like to make decisions with a complete understanding of what we're agreeing to prior to making those decisions. So, motion to second, Tracy, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Number 9, consider Justice Center change orders with possible action. What's that?
Yes.
You want me to go over?
Well, I could say, kind of give some thoughts to, ever since I've gotten here at the Board of Supervisors and got involved in what's going on over at the Justice Center, the streetscape project that the city is working on and designing, and it's a beautification project, it's an infrastructure project. I've had some concerns with the project and how it would impact our Justice Center project. And these concerns are regarding risk exposure, liability, contract disputes, things that were very concerning to me. And so there were a lot of meetings around concerns. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
I thought we were on streetscapes.
No, I said, do you want me to talk about the change orders?
Just talk about the change
Okay, I'm
orders.
gonna talk about the change orders real quick. Okay, so you have in your packet a breakdown, the change orders that are on your agenda for today are in regards to those proposal requests that you've had a couple different work sessions on that you've gone through. So what's before you is DeVries Electric. DeVries Electric is for $34,962.42. And that is really for that PR 9 and 10, which is the conduit for the 911 communication, as well as the Sally Port door in the basement. And then you have DDVI for $20,476.86. That one, part of it is from the PRs, $17,964.50 is for PRs 9 and 10, the conduit and that Sally Port. And then the remaining $2,512.36 is for a metal frame and then a substituting a quartz countertop replacement because the quartz that was in the original bid is no longer available. So in your packet, I have your spreadsheet broken down. This is what we've been tracking for the entire project, where you have your contingency. We have where we did the additional shelf space, which was a budgeted item above and beyond that we've been tracking separately in that breakdown so that you can all see that number. I've added a column for those proposal requests because those are not contingency dollars. Those are additional requests that the county is making. So it's not coming off of this contingency number. This is for the board to understand that that factors in the same way that the basement shelf space did. When we estimated that it was going to be about $300,000 and the board wanted to go forward with it, knowing that we were going to budget that essentially out of that 1.2 in fund balance as additional dollars that you would put forth to make that happen. So you have a total down here of those dollars that go into that total budget as far as that additional stuff that's not coming off a contingency, that's not a construction, it's the owner has requested that these changes be made for whatever reason. So that's in your packet tracking those. You can also see, since we did the resolution for the less than $5,000 changes, those are logged on here, so you can see those at any time, any of those that came through. And then the final change order is a good one. So we did that also on your spreadsheet. You can see we are tracking that temporary storm sewer change that we did so that we could protect the site. And this one Vanderpool did not have to replace as much pipe as was anticipated. So the last change order is a deduct of $21,710 off of that change order from Vanderpool to do that temporary storm. That is the one that we had worked out with the city of Indianola in regards to, and they had agreed to pay for half of that because of the situation where we were at. So the final cost of that temporary storm sewer comes to $18,085, which will be split. The county will pay for that, and then I'll send an invoice to the city for that half that they had agreed to pay for. So it's $9,042.50 for each of us to do that temporary storm sewer replacement to keep the site from flooding. So that was a really good workout. So that's a happy deduct to put on the list there. So those are the three change orders before you: DeVries Electric, DDVI, and Vanderpool.
Are there any questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve those change orders.
Second. Any further discussion? I'll just add, I'm really appreciative of Vanderpool's work on that. We had a budget, we had a partnership with the city so that we could prevent spring flooding in the event that happened. It would have been costly, the work was done, and it came in well under what we all had anticipated. The only downside to that deduct is that when you're going halvesies with someone else and it comes in low, then you're going to reap the full deduct. But that's semantics and a minor thing in the totality of it all. But I'm real happy with Vanderpool on that, and I appreciate it. Motion and a second, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up on the agenda is number 10, consider City of Indianola temporary easement for construction and construction-related activities with possible action. Who would like to start? Charlie Dissel's here from the city. I see Councilman and Aaron has some remarks too, I'm sure. So whoever would like to start would be fine with me.
There's been several meetings on the easement. Initially, when we started, we were asked by the city of Indianola to approve a right-of-way change, and we went down the implications of that and had learned that they were significant at the time. And so in working, trying to find out a way to change our property line in a way that would allow the city of Indianola to design and go out to bid for their streetscape project, we had pretty much come to the conclusion that a temporary easement, which in essence allows the city to do what they need to do and allows the county to maintain the integrity of our project as well. There's been some negativity around our process on the questions, the concerns, and ultimately we I have personally come to the conclusion that cooperation and being a good neighbor is the higher priority than risk assessment and budget numbers. It's really important that the county get behind the streetscape project, and I think it's important for the public and the city to know that there is, I don't know without all the supervisors vote at this point, but there is a lot of consensus on behalf of the county, on behalf of our construction manager, our architect, the Warren County attorney. I've had discussions with our team, and we're behind this streetscape project, and we are here to coordinate, here to cooperate, and here to discuss. We know we're gonna have issues with this project. We know there's things we can't foresee. It's been part of my reasoning on being on the fence on this project and back and forth on this project. But ultimately, we will err on the side of cooperation and having a strengthened relationship with the city.
Charlie, would you come up kindly? And thank you for your remarks.
Good morning. Yeah, Charlie DeSalle, Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Indianola.
I think that you brought some maps to the individual supervisors. I know we spent some time yesterday looking at those. Is there any way we can get those pulled up? Because I think it's...
Do you want me to just, do you have access to your email there,
Yeah.
Megan?
Yeah.
I'll
You would just email it to me.
I can do that if that works.
Y'all been doing that to me all morning.
I want to at least give some rationale on my decision on it. So.
They have a sense of however long it takes them to get to you.
And I like pictures. They're easier to understand.
They can be fun. Is there any other questions of me before we get to that point? I know we got a little bit of time here, so.
I've asked many and have my answers.
Is it anything that I've gotten from you before?
No.
Is this new?
No. And if it works, I can just give you my laptop too, whatever works easiest.
Do Windows K, see if it'll let me connect
What's that?
to Windows K. It'll connect you to the projector.
I can, do you want me to, is it called a Zoom and you give me screen share?
I can try it.
We'll get there eventually.
Yep. Bear with us. There's a reasoning for it, and I want it's a big decision, and I want the public and the county to understand the rationale.
Charlie, I allowed you to share your screen.
There we go.
And how about, well, this is, oh, we got it up.
We're good to go, I think.
Just ready to take a brief recess.
We can do that too.
We're gonna go forward. We're already a little over, we had some interviews after this one. So can you show the public here, maybe, just so the county knows and the residents know, we had a design that had curb and gutters and sidewalks and parking spaces can you pull up the original design of, or do you have
Yep.
one of our architectural designs?
This one right here?
Okay. So if you look at the interior of the square, that is what was designed and approved and went out to bid. And as I look at that, it doesn't take into account the streetscape that came sort of after the fact. Now, I'm not going to say that we weren't probably aware that at some point the city of Indianola wanted to do a streetscape, but we didn't plan for that. And so we designed at the time for what our county needed with some access, and you can see how the corners of that are rounded much like the square because that's how we designed it. Everything in pink would be the county's responsibility. Now, there's been some debate about where the lot lines are and what the plat map looked like in, I don't know, the 1500s or 1800s or whatever it was. It's 1800s, I suppose. And whether it's a square at 312 by 312 or whether it's rounded and who owns what. But this is the design that was put forth. So everything in pink is what went out to bid and is what is proposed absent a change. If you flip to the next slide, I won't do your presentation for you, but the city of Indianola has decided that they want to do a streetscape. They want to change one-way to two-way, add planters, change some curb and gutters. I think that they were under the impression that it was a 312 by 312s, or that it was, the lines maybe were a little different on who owns what. But what I see from this is that there's less pink on that. The actual sidewalk extends on the more outer boundary, and that's important to me for a reason. It's not what we designed, but it's important to me because there's only so much green space on the square. And if you flip back and you look at this picture of what's available for green space, and then you look at that, you're going to see less green space. You're going to effectively have two sidewalks. And I'm not saying that I'm in love with this. In my perfect world, if I not only had influence over county matters, but also was able to tell all the cities in the county exactly what to do per my wish list, I would have the streetscape done at a later date. It'd be easiest for us, selfishly, and that's my rule. It'd be easier for us if this was done 2 years from now, or a year from now, or after we're done with our construction. But I'm also a realist, and the realist in me says it would make 0 sense to have two sidewalks on an already somewhat limited green space that we're working with. And I also understand something. From the get-go, I've tried to work with the city while representing the county, but the county also includes the city of Indianola. I mean, these folks are paying taxes too. So I've tried to be fair with all. But from my perspective, I like to deer hunt. I have a little bit of farm. I control my farm. Now, if my neighbor has their own farm right next to mine, and their hobbies are riding dirt bikes 15 hours a day during the rut, that's going to really make me unhappy. But ultimately, I don't get to control what my neighbor does on their property. I don't get to control, and this board doesn't get to control when or how the city of Indianola addresses their own property. So I've come to the conclusion that the city of Indianola is going forward with a streetscape. So it's a matter of how do we work together to get the best result. That doesn't mean that I in my perfect world, I would have designed the streetscape to work in conjunction with our project. I think it leads to some potential problems, and I want those to be addressed as best as possible. But I can't stop the city of Indianola from doing the streetscape. And so if the streetscape is going to happen regardless of what we do, then what they will do is flip it back to the other one, is they will do the streetscape on property that they control, and we will have two sidewalks and less green space. that doesn't seem like that's an outcome that is the best of the hand that we can play. I mean, it doesn't seem like that's the best outcome for the entirety of the county, not just Indianola and not just from where I sit on the county board. That is a duplication of 2 sidewalks and less green space. Now, when you back out the county's portion of sidewalk space, you see a lot less pink.
You want this one? Sorry.
Yep, that's great. There should be some real decrease in concrete, materials, time. Now, we bid for a project, so I don't assume that we're going to see a dollar for dollar change there. I think to some extent that sort of devalues the work that's been done. But you gotta make the most of where you're at. And so I will approve, or I will vote to approve. I don't know if it will or won't. I don't have an idea. I guess I have a better idea now. But I think that the end result, with where we're at now, with the understanding that Indianola is going forward with the streetscape, that we do not get to control what they do. This end result provides the most green space possible. It deducts a fair amount of internal sidewalk on a rounded square, and it's sort of the best of the options as I see them as we sit here. I don't know what we'll see in a credit from our contractors to do it. My guess is maybe 50 cents on the dollar. Clearly, we're going to have some time in there. We're going to have some collaboration, and all that costs money. So my guess is when the dust settles on it all, it's probably a wash. I don't expect it to be a money-making venture. I wouldn't expect it to cost a great deal of more resources, but my guess is the $50,000 or $60,000 of proposed savings by not having our concrete will probably be sucked up in some capacity. But the end result is better than 2 sidewalks and less green space. So for those reasons, I think you got me to vote yes. Do you think I characterized that about correct?
Yeah, I think you did a really good job of summing that up.
No way the city wants to do this 2027?
And that's been discussed. The only thing I'll say on that is we've worked through a steering committee initially back in 2019 on this project that consisted of a lot of business owners. That was discussed briefly and almost immediately shot down just because we do it this year. We're looking at an additional approximately 5 months of construction on top of the Justice Center project, where if we wait till next year, it's 17 months. So that reason, I think a lot of people are just ready to have this go back to normal. So.
Yeah, I concur with that. I got a lot of feedback from the voters and from our citizens, and they would much rather have a more intense project in a shorter period of time than a project that lasts 4 years. And I did receive that feedback pretty consistently. And no one wants to see the city and county not, having a dispute over this matter at this point in time when we've got so much going on. I think our citizens really do want to see the cooperation and working together. If we can get behind streetscapes and they get behind our project and we do that in a collaborative manner, I think that's what the residents of Warren County want to see, and I think that's what we should provide them. So this will be a good project as we work together, and we should all keep in mind that it's all in an effort to present our local governments as on the same team and working together. And that's ultimately why I came to the side of voting for this temporary easement.
Okay. Crystal, thoughts?
I really appreciate you reaching out yesterday and the sit down I had with Mayor Pepper and yourself. It answered a lot of my own questions. questions, and like you said, the pictures spoke really loudly. And I think one of the things when the demolition of the project was going on and we lost our trees, it was sad. And to see that those trees and that greenery will come back to the square, I'm really excited about that. And I am hopeful that we can work together, not only in coordination, but hoping that it keeps the costs down and that we don't suffer a huge amount of not only setback in money, but in time. And I really want to cooperate and make sure that that doesn't happen. And you had given your word yesterday about that, so.
Yeah, and I can add to that real quick. As we, I think, committed to all three of you individually yesterday, we don't have a contractor on board yet. We hope to have one selected here soon. Our commitment to the county would be that we will definitely dictate to our contractor that there is a coordination piece of this. It's very important to work with the county through your project and to make sure that we are not being bad neighbors, getting in the way of an existing project or anything like that. So I know we've talked with DCI a few times, proposed most likely bi-weekly coordinating meetings between the two contractors. So we'll continue to do that. And the only other thing I will add, I think, while there might have been a few disagreements here in the last few months, we've been working together through these two projects for almost 2.5 years at this point. So I think the coordination between the two governmental agencies has been there. There's disagreements at times, and that'll happen, but I think we've been doing a good job of working together through this time. So, anything else?
None here. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve City of Indianola temporary easement for construction and construction-related activities.
So moved.
Do we need to read this?
Yeah,
I think I'll make a motion.
kind of a friendly amendment to the motion contingent upon the streetscape favorable
Financing.
bids. I think you've got
I
language
got
that
language
should.
here that
Yeah.
we should probably read.
Please make a friendly amendment, sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the temporary easement for the streetscape project requested by the City of Indianola. This temporary easement is contingent on final design and construction coordination of the two projects. Once a contractor has been selected by the city and the county completes final design and construction coordination. With this motion, the concurrent work by Shive Hattery, as proposed in contract amendment number 5, dated March 29, 2021, is approved. Shive Hattery is authorized to proceed with this work upon written approval by a designated representative of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Written approval is anticipated to be given on or before April 19, 2021, or upon written notification from the City of Indianola that they intend to proceed with the streetscape project.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Tracy?
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries. Number 11, consider amendment to Shive Hattery Inc. Agreement with possible action.
This is the agreement for redesign to coordinate with the city streetscape. So this is a proposal from Shive Hattery that would also be contingent upon the streetscape project being approved by the city and moving forward, that you would then want Shive Hattery to move forward with doing the redesign that will be necessary to remove that concrete curb and gutter from the Justice Center project so that it stops it from doing on our project so that the city can come along and do it on their project. So you would also make this contingent, the same language that Shive provided, that they kind of had it in there, that their agreement is contingent upon the city moving forward with the streetscape, that therefore we're not liable to them if the streetscape, for whatever reason, we're not to go move forward.
Understood.
Make that motion to accept the contract. Is it an amendment to the contract?
It's an amendment to their contract for additional services.
From Shive Hattery.
I'll second.
Tracy?
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. Motion carries. All right, well, I look forward to a nice summer day next year when both of these projects are more or less wrapped up. It'll be a good day. We got a little time. Okay, supervisors report. Who would like to go first?
I'm going to forego mine because of time constraints. I'll do it at the next board meeting.
Likewise.
Okay. I'm gonna keep it brief, but I got one thing to say. Yeah, we'll add the meetings and the things that we did. There's been a lot basically. Based on the consent agenda, you can see some of that. The thing I want to speak about today, I'll keep it relatively brief, is just property taxes and valuations. I think it was yesterday is when I received my personal valuation letter. And I see
I came back to
I see our assessor is here today. I'll choose carefully the words that I say. But here's what I think. I'm not positive, and I certainly have been in contact, and I'm sure that when I check email today, there'll be a whole lot more contacts. But I'm not positive that everyone fully understands taxes, levy rates, valuations, and how that all works together. So I'll give just sort of a brief synopsis of it. The county has about 20% of the actual tax bill. That's revenue that comes to the county, and that goes for our various departments, our sheriff, our county attorney, our roads, projects, all sorts of things. This board gets to set a levy rate. So that's really how much of a bite of, what percentage of the bite of that valuation are we going to levy to collect revenues from. And that is different than the actual valuation itself. So valuations is not something that we set or control or have a whole lot of influence over. We have some, but not a whole lot. So I'll give some examples. And I'll be somewhat Norwalk specific, but take for example, 5 years ago in Norwalk, there was probably 20 homes on the market, maybe 15, and you could buy a home for maybe $130,000, $150,000. And that home might be on the market for a month or two. You'd have a realtor, and eventually you'd get an offer, and you'd haggle and get your home sold. Right now, or as of yesterday, I think there's 5 or 6 homes on the market. I mean, there's very, very few. I think that there's nothing under 100,000. I think there's maybe one between 100 and 150. And so my point is that same home that sold 5 years ago for $130,000 or $150,000, but it took a couple months to get that sold. That home now sells for $225,000, and if you're not, or higher, and it doesn't take a month or two for that property to sell, it sells by the end of the week, if not sooner. And so the assessor has to look at like homes, similarly built homes, similarly constructed homes, sizes, finishes, and what she sees is that, the neighbors whose home's about the same sold for $250, and the other neighbor sold for $245. Well, if you have a home that's about the same, what is the value of that home if you were to sell it? Is it still the $150 that you paid for it 5 years ago? I would contend that it's not. By law, she's required to look at comparables. And the same with farm ground or rec ground. New Virginia 5 years ago, you could buy $3,000 scrubby deer ground. And those frequently sell now for $5,000 or $6,000 an acre, or $4,500 an acre. It's went up. There's not much I can do about it going up. What we can do, and what the other taxing entities can, and I would contend should do, is be cognizant that if you leave your levy rates flat, if you are increasing your levy rate, and the valuations from which you are collecting revenues increase, you are going to collect a lot more money. Now, Maybe some people like that. I will tell you that most of the people that are paying the tax probably don't like that. Then again, everyone likes programs. They like rock on the road and nice bridges and, a well-run county attorney's office and the sheriff's department to have weapons that work and vehicles that move, etc. So it's a balancing act. But what I'm going to tell you today is that this county is going to collect more revenue for the next fiscal year and going forward once those valuations increase, unless this board decides that a meaningful reduction in the levy rate, which is how we collect the revenue, happens. So I would encourage all of the taxing entities, inclusive of us at the county, the city in which you might live, Indianola, Norwalk, Carlisle, Hartford, anyone you can collect, and the school boards in which you are in, to take a hard look at the increased influx of dollars, because you're going to have some and we're going to have some decisions to make. Do we leave things exactly flat and use more revenue, or do we reduce? That's a decision that should fall back on the electeds and not so much our assessor, because her hands are tied in that decision. She has to look at comparables and be within, is it 5%? Is that what the statute says? Of comparable property sales. So while I'm sure that there will be many tax protests, I'm sure her office will be busy. I was joking with her earlier that she probably got nixed from most party invitations for the next couple months. So her calendar will be relatively clear. It's really not her fault that the valuations are up. She has to do her job. But it is the responsibility of all the people that make decisions on what those levy rates are now and going forward. So I would encourage everyone to hold those elected folks' feet to the fire. Your school boards, your city councils, your board of supervisors, and I'll toss in the state of Iowa for good measure because they didn't do us any favors on their rollback change either. With that, I will say one last thing. I don't take my cues from California politics, but I did do a bit of digging and I was aware that they passed in the late 70s Proposition 13. And I'm not saying that that's something that needs to happen or that I love every aspect of it. But if valuations continue to increase at the clip that we're seeing, I would encourage people to maybe talk with their legislators to see if there's some Proposition 13 light that maybe the state of Iowa could look at. Because when those taxes go up and when the valuations are doubling over 5 years or whatever, that maybe doesn't impact someone with a good paying job and time and ability to navigate around that. But it really impacts people that are on fixed incomes, people that are dependent or receive most of their monthly income from Social Security, and now their tax rates are going up, and others with lesser financial ability to pay. And so I don't know, I'm just spitballing, but if it would be possible to have some sort of legislation that would maybe look at duration in a home, age, income, some other things, and have it locked for a while, or have a marginal increase and not so shocking of an increase, I think that might have some traction. I don't know, but it's just a thought. With that, I'm done. Is there any public input, either online or in the room?
I see none online.
Okay. Our next regular meeting date is April 20th, 2021. It's our evening meeting to make it more accessible for the public. It's at 6 p.m. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
We're adjourned. Thank you all for your time.